Coming to you straight from Indianapolis, aka the Circle City, this is the Taking Back You Momcast. The Taking Back You Momcast is a witty, authentic, and sometimes sarcastic podcast for millennial mamas who are in the thick of mom life. And I'm your host, Dani Carter-Iddens, wife, millennial mama, motivational speaker, and motherhood advocate. Hello. Welcome to the Taking Back You Momcast. How you doing, guys? I'm Dani Carter-Iddens, your host, as always, and I just want to welcome you. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. We are 1 week away from Thanksgiving, and speaking of Thanksgiving, we're always talking about sitting at a table, and so today we're going to talk about taking your seat at the table. So you might be thinking, what kind of table is Dani talking about? And I'll tell you all about what I mean by the table that you need to learn how to take your seat at, because you deserve it. You should be there and your voice is important. But before we do that, like we do every single week here at Taking Back You, I want to welcome you to subscribe to this podcast. And I ask you to share it with your other mom friends. You guys, the mission of Taking Back You is to reach millennial mamas and to help you bridge the gap between being a great mom and, more than a mom. So if you know of a mom who would benefit from this podcast, if you know of a mom who would benefit from Taking Back You, tell them to subscribe to this podcast, share it, like it, tell your friends. I would really appreciate it. And you know what? Like I said, our mission at Taking Back You is to help moms. So if you guys know the moms, all the moms. I know my moms. I've told my moms, but I want share. So I just asked you to do that. And yeah, so listen, taking your seat at the table is an interesting concept and one that's come into my life, I would say, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was taught to me kind of this way, and I'm gonna give you like the really fast version of what the whole idea of the table, where that came from, and why it is such an important thing for us as women and as moms to make sure that we do in order to get our voice heard and to get our opinions and our, we're important too. So we need to get our voice in there. Well, really, the whole idea of the table. So if you think about, the table, usually when you have a table, it's filled with people who belong there. So probably the easiest, and most common, view of the table that most of us have is you probably have two. The first one is the, Knights of the Round Table, like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And what was interesting about that table was that it was round. So even though King Arthur was the, head of the crew, he was the king, he still, he sat everybody at a round table so that no one was more, important than anybody else. And everybody was equal, even though he was the king, everybody was equal. And, they knew for a fact that they belonged at this table. There was no question. If they had earned their spot, they were part of the knights. They were the knights. And, the other idea, the other thing that probably pops into your head when you think of tables, you probably think of the Last Supper. When you think of that, and the one picture I always imagine when I think of a table is the table where, Jesus is holding the cup and everybody else is holding up the cup and he's telling them, to drink from the cup. And we see everybody at the table, all the disciples, and once again, the table in this case, usually when it's depicted, it's, a long table, but everybody's on the same side of the table. And so it all kind of, it shows the sense of belonging, like we all belong there. And in the way this is really emulated a lot of times is in, a wedding. When you have the wedding party, a lot of times the wedding party, they're all on one side of the table and they're looking over the guests. So you kind of get this idea that the people at the table table are like super important, and we should listen to them, and especially the people who are towards the middle of the table. Those are the most important people at the table. In the picture at the Last Supper, Jesus is in the middle, but in the wedding party, usually the bride and the groom are in the middle. So we get this whole idea of the table is such an important theme in, in like, honestly, in like humanity. And when you think about even like your table at home, I know at our dining room table, my husband, his spot is at the head of the table. That's where he sits, and it's just kind of how it is. I know a lot of houses are the same way. And even, families like for holidays and stuff like that, there's usually places where everybody's kind of like, they just kind of sit based on their, spot in the family. I don't know. There's a big thing about tables. And so, when I talk about taking your seat at the table, I don't mean just like walking up and being like, oh, here's a table, I'm going to go sit down. What I mean is taking your spot, getting your voice heard at like the big proverbial table, the table of, influence, the table of, just where we share our ideas, where our ideas come from, and, where you are getting your voice heard. And, this table can be in a lot of different realms. We talked about it in the realm, of, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. We talked about it in the Last Supper. We talked about it in a wedding party, but it can also be, the table among family. We talked about that too. A dining room table or a kitchen table. It can be around, with friends. The table, your table of friends. In church leadership, you're that group of people that you sit down with and you speak with, you get your voice heard. It can be in it can be in the PTA, PTO. I don't know. It depends on where you live. Some people call it the PTA. Some people call it the PTO. It can be, in your small business. If you're within a group of people who also run small businesses, or even just within your own small business, if you have a few employees, you guys probably sit down at a table to discuss things. And it doesn't even mean that you have to be in the same place. Like, think about the boardroom. Okay, you're in your career, the boardroom, the table is very, very important. The whole idea of the table is very important. And I know you know this, but I want you to start thinking about tables in a different way, because, a lot of times what we think about is, and I feel like as moms, a lot of times we think about tables as something that we need to put the food on that we just cooked. Or, getting our children to the table to sit down to eat the food that we just cooked. You know what I mean? So what I want you to do is I want you to think about the table in a different way. I want you to think about the table as a place where you can go to show that you are important and that you have a voice. So when you think about a table, I want you to think about this table, and I want you to think about a table that you are not currently at. And like I said, that can be any table. And I don't think about like, Ashley Home Furniture tables. I mean, like, I want you to think about a table that you're not currently at, in a position that you are not currently in. So, is there a table that you want to be sitting at, in church leadership, in your small business, in your career? Is there a table that you are not sitting at, but you want to be? Is there a place, if you are sitting at the table, is there a place at the table that you want to be at, a place that is super, super important, and so you want to be in that spot as opposed to the spot that you're in? So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about how to get to that spot and how to take your seat at the table, and how to do it in such a way that you don't feel like you are, you're unworthy, because you are worthy. You're worthy of the spot. You're worthy of your seat at the table. And I'm going to tell you how to act once you get there. So the first thing you got to do is you have to seize your opportunities. All we talk about on Taking Back You, on the Taking Back You Momcast, is how to get from here to where you want to be. So from where you are now to where you want to be. That's literally, I would say 99% of the episodes that we throw out there into the universe are about getting from where you are now to where you want to be. And then we talk about how we're going to do that. So what happens for some of us, though, is that we find ourselves in the situation that we want to be in. We're like, ready, here it is. And then what do? We freak out. And we're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I deserve this. And so you shy away from your chance to get your foot in the door. You shy away from your opportunity to get what you deserve, because you don't know if you should have it, or you don't know if you're worthy of it, or there's something back in your past that makes you feel like you don't deserve what's being offered to you. And so what I want you to do right now is I want you to quiet that and to seize your opportunity when you were offered a spot at the table. Now, sometimes your spot at the table might sound like more work. It might sound like you have to do more. But when you get your foot in the door, when you get that seat at the table, now you have an opportunity to share your thoughts, to share your ideas, your perspective, your point of view. Remember, that matters. That matters. And I think that's what's so important about taking your seat at the table, is that you matter. Your thoughts matter. Your beliefs matter. Your opinions matter. Your facts, your truths matter. And I think there's a very common thing, especially with women, especially with moms, that we don't believe that our thoughts, our opinions, our beliefs are as important as our male counterparts. We don't think they hold as much weight. And, part of that is because, women are, and I don't want to be general. I don't like generalities, because I feel like then when you do that, generalizations, when you do that, then there's always somebody who's like, that's not me. But I feel like women, we are more emotion driven. And so what happens sometimes is we give our emotions, we say how we feel, and then people take that as like weakness, because, sometimes we wear our hearts on our sleeves. And so people don't take us as seriously, because they don't think that, our thoughts are, what we're thinking has as much credence, because, she just feels that way, or, based on our hormonal schedule or whatever foolishness they come up with to discredit our thoughts. But what happens is this, slowly but surely, as the years go by, we hear this, and then we start to believe it. And we start to believe that our place in the world does not include, being amongst decision makers. And that's not true. Your point of view, your perspective matters. And so when you have these opportunities, you have to take them. A few years ago, I was offered the opportunity to be on the board of my alma mater. And I have to tell you, at first, I wanted to say a big, bad, stinking, ill, yucky no. I wanted no part of it. I wanted nothing to do with it. And I especially didn't want to have to go to a meeting. I didn't want to have to do any of these things that like they said I was going to have to do. I just was like, I didn't want anything to do with it. And a good friend of mine reminded me, he said, well, Dani, you were the one who was saying, a couple of months ago that you really didn't like the way this certain situation that had taken place was handled. And he goes, so the only way it's going to change, I think, is if you go be a part of this and you change it. And I was kind of like, you're right. So, I had this opportunity and I almost turned it away because I was thinking to myself, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be there. I don't want to take on this extra responsibility. But this was, my seat at the table was being offered to me. And so my friend, who is a real friend, that's what real friends do, he reminded me that I deserve that seat, that my voice is important and it needs to be heard. And so he told me to take it. He told me to seize that opportunity. So then, of course, when you get there, so let's say you somehow by as my mom always says, by hook or by crook, you get there. And listen, don't repeat that because it's not a good saying when you really think about it. But whatever. Somehow you get there and you are like, now, great. What do I have to offer? What do I bring to this table? That's what that saying comes from. What do you bring to the table? They're not talking about like, hey, do you have, cool pictures of your kid or something? You know what I mean? Like they want to see what you got. You got some things to offer. What do you have to offer? And so the first thing you have to do when you say like, what do I have to bring to the table is you have to actually believe that you have something to bring to the table. That I always say this, if you believe in you, the world will too. It's a cute little jingle, but it's true. I didn't mean for that to rhyme there, but it did. So if you believe in you, the world will too. The first person, I say this, if you are a listener, you hear this, I don't even know how many times, catch the vision. The first person to catch the vision is you. Okay. And so then that's how you get everyone on board. You tell them what the vision is, and then they're like, what? And then you say, okay, this is important. So we need to do this. You come with receipts. Girls, you always have to have your receipts because there's going to be somebody who is going to discount your thoughts because they're thinking that, it's just how you feel. Like you just have the feels and you're just feeling this. But you know what? You need to have your receipts because, I always say feelings are good, facts are better. So when you have your receipts, when you have the information to back up the things that you are saying, then you can go in with confidence. You know that this seat is yours, and it takes some work. It takes some research, especially if you're in a field where you're kind of out, you're not really sure exactly what you're doing. The one thing you never do is let anyone else know that. You act just like this is, what you were born to do. You were just waiting for them to figure it out. Be like, well, I know it took you guys a minute to get there, but I'm already here. I'm glad you caught up with me. You know what I mean? That's how you need to be. And it's not being mean. It's not being stuck up or, full of yourself or anything like that. It's being confident. It's being confident in your abilities, in what you know. And when you come prepared, you will do what you need to do. I heard this today on the radio, and I thought this was an amazing sentence. It was preparation prevents poor performance. So think of that like the 4 P's. Preparation prevents poor performance. So when you think about how you're going to demonstrate your confidence, that saying is super important. Preparation prevents poor performance. And if I can think of who said it, it would be really awesome. But that just stuck in my head, and I repeated it over and over and over again in my brain so I wouldn't forget it. Preparation prevents poor performance. And you know what? Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. This is another way that you demonstrate your confidence. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to tell people that you are worthy. And that you are deserving of their vote, their belief, whatever, of them following you. Because, I want you to think about it this way. You don't have to believe that, telling people that you're deserving of their vote. Let's say their vote. We're going to use their vote. That's not being stuck up. Because who do you think the president of the United States voted for when he was running? And not just this president, but every president. If you don't believe in you, no one else will. If you believe in you, the world will too. Every president Save for George Washington, because I really don't think he wanted to be president. But pretty much every president voted for themselves when they were voting for president, unless they didn't vote at all. We can't ask all of them, though. We only got a few living. But I'm going to go with it wouldn't make much sense to run for president, to get out there, to tell everybody why you think you'd be a good president, and then to turn around and vote for your opponent. That seems counterproductive. And that makes sense, right? It seems counterproductive. So why do we do that every single day to ourselves? Why do we go out into the world and give people a whole bunch of reasons not to vote for us? And I don't mean for president. I just mean in general. Why do we say things giving people reasons not to believe in us, not to think we belong, not to think we've earned our spot at the table? Why do we do that? Because we do it a lot. Think about why you do that. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is, your body language. Because I can tell you this from years of dance. I mean, I've been dancing since I was, let's just say it's been a long time. We're going into the we're past 30 years of dance. How about that? We'll put it that way. And so I've always been a very body conscious person because of this. And one of the things I also pay attention to, and it's part of the ballet tradition, but there's a thing called pantomiming in ballet, where it's like, because you can't talk in ballet. You don't just you're not like, I need more chickens for my chicken coop. You have to show that with pantomiming. I don't know why in any ballet you would ever be saying you need more chickens for your chicken coop, but let's just say you are putting on a ballet about omelets. So I don't know. But anyways, I'm a big, big, big watcher of body language just because of it. I've always have been, and I always will be. And so I'm going to give you some things, when you get in there, when you get your seat at the table, this is what you have to do. You have to look like you belong there. And there's a saying that always goes, fake it till you make it. And I agree with that. You got to fake it till you make it, because sometimes it's just, it's but for the grace of God that you are where you are. But you also need to come in with, with this look, with this, you have to give off this energy so that people know who you are and why you are there. And more importantly, that you belong there, that you belong at this particular table. You need to have your shoulders back. You need to hold your head high. In ballet, or in dancing in general, I always tell my students this. I had a couple students in particular that always used to dance with their head down. And what's so interesting in dance is that when you are looking straight ahead in dance, your head is considered down. So if you are looking straight ahead, if you're holding your head at completely neutral and you're looking straight ahead, your head is down in dance. When we say head up, we mean you lift up your chin, almost as if you're regal. And there's something to that, because when you hold yourself like that, listen, it's not for nothing that royals hold their heads up high and their shoulders back. It's not for nothing. Yes, it's good posture, but it also feeds into your brain this feeling of you are, you're like, I'm important. It just feels like, I used to tell my students, I said, just stand this way and you tell me how you feel about yourself after standing with your shoulders back and your chin up for so long. You feel important. It's just the way it is. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. You're going to maintain eye contact. So many times we break eye contact because we're afraid that the other person will, see into our souls and see that we're a fake or we're a phony or we don't know what the heck we're going on. You know what? But let me play it to you like this. What if they're thinking the same thing? They're like, oh my gosh, don't look at me. I don't really know what I'm doing. If you lean forward when you're seated, this is a good one. I'm going to tell you another good one that I didn't even write down to remind you today, but I'm going to tell you another good one. And this is one, it only works if you wear glasses, but if you wear glasses, it's a good one. You're going to lean forward, you're going to put your elbow on the table, and you're going to take your glasses off as you're making a point, or even better, while someone else is talking, because then this shows that you're listening too. And you're going to take your glasses off, you're going to point at them with like the arm of your glasses, and you're going to be like that. Yes. That really shows that you're being a good listener. It shows that you're engaged, and it shows that you are open to other people's opinions. And when other people feel welcome, then they're going to be more open to what you have to say. The last thing I'm going to tell you, I said the last thing before, but it was a lie. This is the actual last thing. All of my students who are listening to this, they will know that dance teachers often lie. We always say one more time, and then after they do it one more time, we say, that was awesome. All right, guys, one more time. So that was my dance teacher moment. One last thing. When you finally do, this is the most important part too, you guys. Because this is the part. This is the part where you spread the love. When you finally get your seat at the table, when you finally take your seat at the table, when you sit down and you look around, girlfriend, you better bring some people with you. And just like you got that opportunity, you need to open up that table to others who are coming after you, so that they can have that opportunity as well. Because there's no point in getting where you are, where you want to be, to getting up there, to getting your seat at the table, if you don't bring people with you. And I think that's something that King Arthur figured out. That's why his table was round. He was like, yeah, cool, I'm the king. And yeah, we're all knights and we're fighting and we're doing boobity boop. But guess what? I can't take care of this kingdom by myself. I need these men to help me. We are all important. If one of them wasn't here, we wouldn't be able to do what we did. And you know, that's the other thing about, your seat at the table, is that you have to realize that, you are important, and so is the person to your left, so is the person to your right, so is the person in front of you, so is the person, across from you, whatever. Kitty corner. Or as my sister-in-law would say, catty corner. If you want to know what that's about, you can check on my Facebook. We have a whole kitty corner, catty corner regional fight about that. But that's so important. When you get to the table, when you get your seat, you better bring some chicks with you, and you give them an opportunity as well, because you know what it's like to not have an opportunity. You know that. So you got to put yourself in a position to lift up other people when you can. So I hope this was an informative episode. It was, a little different. We took a holiday break, so we did our Zen. And you guys, isn't she just awesome? Like, I absolutely love Mary, and I keep saying it that I love Mary, but if you didn't listen to last week's episode, Staying Zen During the Holidays, please listen to it. It is such a good episode. And if for no other reason than, even if you're like, I don't care about being Zen, then just listen to her voice, because if you want to know what calmed me more than anything was her voice. She has the most beautiful melodic voice. And so just listen to her voice if for no other reason. But I really wanted to, this theme of taking your seat at the table, it keeps coming up for me. And, I like to share with you all when something keeps coming up to me, that I always feel like that's kind of God's way of telling me that I need to share it with you guys. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna talk about this. And so I had to do, a little bit of research, because honestly, I'm the same way. I don't seize the opportunities that I can, or I shy away, or I give an excuse why I can't be there. But that ends today. It ends today. And I hope it ends with you as well. I hope you have a wonderful week. We will be on next week. I'm going to give I don't know, it'll be a short episode next week, just, kind of pre-Thanksgiving, gratitude-filled episode, but we will be on next week. I hope you have just a wonderful rest of your week. It is so close. You guys know I love Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is like one of my faves. I want to do a shout out to my mom. She, her birthday is on Saturday, so happy birthday, Mom. And because I love my mom a lot, I'm not going to say her age, but let's just say, well, happy birthday. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Don't forget, subscribe to this podcast, share it, like it, love it, tell your friends. I will talk to you soon. Have a great week. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. For more information on Taking Back You and the Taking Back You Momcast, visit us at takingbackyou.com. From there, you'll be able to follow us on social media, listen to past episodes, and learn all about the mission of Taking Back You. Be sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And from all of us at Taking Back You, thank you so much for your support.